Welcome everybody. This is Jay Stein with the One Rich Mama System, a simple guide to saving, making, and managing your family's money. So first step is to create an effective budget. And the best way to acquire financial security is to have a sound budget. So what does having a sound budget allow? A lot of people don't like that word, but it's something to be scared of. With a sound budget, you're going to be able to have extra money to plan that vacation. You're going to have extra money to buy that big screen TV, and you're going to have extra money for that matching surround sound system. How do you go about creating your budget and getting started? Well, the backbone for your budget is how much money you make. So you have to start off using your net income, not your gross. So if you don't know the difference between net and gross, that's okay. Gross is not something disgusting. Gross is just what you make. That's what your employer says, or your spouse's employer says, this is what you make. If it's $25,000 a year, $10,000, $50,000, whatever. But your net income is what you keep and bring home every 2 weeks, every month, every week after everything's been taken out. Taxes, medical, dental, savings for retirement. So you may think you make $50,000 a year, but you don't bring home $50,000 a year. So you need to make sure you live on what you bring home. And a lot of times we'll get tax refunds, and that's great, but you always want to consider your tax refund a bonus, okay, not something that you plan into your budget. Okay, when you're figuring income, first of all, you start with any income you get from your jobs, any businesses you own, investments, alimony or child support payments, any residual income like rents or royalties, and any other source of income you can think of. Now, if you sporadically make a few extra bucks here and there, helping out with the neighbor's kids or doing some work for other people, maybe you don't want to include that, because if it's sporadic and you can't really tell how much is coming in every month, maybe you want to keep that off. It's kind of that money is kind of to help the pot, but you don't want to necessarily include it. So you want to talk about your regular income that you know is going to come in. So if your paycheck varies, which happens to a lot of us, you just need to determine your average monthly income. So it's a little simple formula. You take your total income for the past 3 to 6 months, the number of paychecks during that time, and that's your income estimate. Okay, so it's a little division. Next, we go on to the other part of the equation of a budget. What are your expenses? Your expenses include fixed expenses, which are usually things like your rent, any sort of utilities, even though those could be a little variable, but things you have to pay: rent, maybe loan payments, a car payment, any student loans, variable, which again are kind of payments you need to make. Kind of the examples of utilities. They can vary from month to month, but you generally know how much they're going to be. They're a little variable, but you know you're going to have to pay them. Sometimes things like heating costs. A lot of us have heating costs in winter, but we don't in the summer, so you need to kind of include those, especially if you're doing your budget in the summer. Don't forget about the winter. The next one you have to do is your non-essentials. So these are not necessarily things like food, but entertainment. If you go on a vacation, clothes. Yeah, we all need clothes, but really they're kind of non-essentials. So think about that. So I talked a little bit about that. But what are fixed expenses? They're your house and rent payments, car payments, cables, loans, things like that. The variable expenses, again, groceries, gasoline, entertainment. Try to use an average amount of each charge for your budget. So if you know maybe over the past couple of months what you spent on entertainment or on groceries, sometimes you can pull your receipts if used a debit card or whatever, or you keep your receipts. Try to take an average. So I know my grocery bill varies week to week, but over a month I can get a monthly average. Next, you want to think about the non-essentials. These are the things we want but don't necessarily need. Eating out, stuff you buy because it's on sale, clothing, shoes, etc. like that. So all those equal your total expenses. Now the only way to create a workable budget is to earn more than you spend, okay? So sometimes people say, well, I'll just try to earn more. That's a great strategy for the longer term, but short term, you need to get those expenses under control, because there's an old saying that your expenses rise to meet your income, so that you want to know and have a handle on what you're spending even before you go out and try to make more money, because otherwise, you know what, you're just going to spend the more money. You're not going to do maybe the smart choices with it. So you need to, as you go through this, you really want to know, what do you spend every month? It might be a shock to you, and it certainly was to me, and it certainly is almost every time I do this. I find places where I'm spending more money than I thought, or just didn't think about that. And you really have to look at your variable charges, because a lot of times without a big effort, there's not a lot we can do to reduce those fixed. It's harder to go and switch your housing. If you do have student loans, it can take a big chunk of money to pay those off and get rid of those. So a lot of us, we just have to focus on what our variable charges are, and we need to make decisions every day in order to manage those variable expenses, because those are the things we have the most control of. And really, how much do you need to make in order to get by? So you need to write down your income expenses, you need to estimate your variable expenses, and then you cut down on your variable expenses in order to earn more than you spend. Alright, that's the end.